Hey, what's up? And welcome into Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. Thanks so much for downloading the podcast and checking us out on YouTube, youtube.com. Look for Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment to everything we do here at Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood, brought to you by the fine folks over at Advantage Dealer Group in Calumet City, Illinois. Yes, if you're looking for a new truck or a new car, make sure you go to the people that will give you the advantage. Advantage Dealer Group in Calumet City, Illinois. Make sure you say hello to Mo, the general manager. They took care of me, so they will take care of you. It's time for you to get out of that old hoopty. You know when you turn the key, you know how bad that sounds? You know how awful it is? You got to go to a mission test. You know how embarrassing that is with that smoke belching out of the back? Get yourself a ride like this one right here. Oh, the Toyota Tundra Capstone. No smoke belching out of the back. Yes, when you go there to the Advantage Dealer Group in Calumet City, they will take care of you. So Toyota, let's go places with the Advantage Dealer Group. Let's talk about basketball. Yes, the NBA, the schedule is out. And of course, when we're going to talk basketball, it just can't be me. We have to bring in a special guest, an expert. That's why we bring in Nick Friedell. Yes, he joins us here on Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood as we talk NBA. Nick, as always, I appreciate the time, sir.
My man, I can't tell you as you go through the read there how much I truly miss you. I know I say that to you all the time, and I got the chance, luckily, one chance to be with you again a few weeks ago.
One chance.
One chance, but I miss you, and it's always good to hear you, and it's great to be with you now.
I miss you too, sir. And of course, if it's the NBA season, which is right around the corner, if it's schedule season, we're going to have our annual conversation. Schedule has just released. I want to know, from your standpoint in the Bay Area, what stands out most about the schedule that you've seen so far?
The biggest thing for me, at least looking at the Warriors' schedule, Hoodie, is it's so much lighter than a year ago. In the beginning of the year, they had 12 of their first 16 on the road. Steph and Jimmy were trying to catch a rhythm. It didn't really happen. And then it just kind of left its mark from there. They never fully got it together. What I would say on a broader league note, though, as I go through the first schedules of everybody, and obviously my focus right now is on the Warriors, I can't believe that the league that is struggling with its regular season product still has so many back-to-backs. Like I'm looking at this schedule and I'm already going, all right, well, Steph's not going to play in this game and he's not going to play in that game. And what you want as the NBA is to sell your stars. You and I have spent almost 2 decades at this point talking about specifically Steph and LeBron, and you want them to be out there as much as they can. When you and I can look at the schedule and go, well, they're not going to play on this night, or it's the third game in 4 nights, it's not going to happen here. That is not good, especially for a product that is really struggling night to night to generate interest as it was 15, 20 years ago. So as a longtime fan like you are, that is where my attention went early. Man, why? This is where the conversation about shortening the regular season that has been out there for a while is just going to continue, because we can see on August 13th when some of the league's biggest stars aren't going to play. And that is not a good thing for the league as a whole.
In baseball, you can pick and choose games you want to go to in a long series. The last thing that you want the NBA to be, if you're Adam Silver, is to pick and choose games that you think the stars are going to be at. That's tough. 162 is different than 82, 84 games. I think that's where the NBA is looking at it wrong. Like, yes, you want all your stars to play every night if you could, but when you have so many back-to-backs, 3 games in 4 nights and those kind of things, you start turning into what baseball is.
You're spot on. And what I would tell you, and I thought about this the other night sitting in Wrigley. I was lucky enough to go to one of those Dodger games a few weeks ago when Shohei was in town. And that really is the difference to me, Hoodie. And you and I have loved both of these sports all our lives, baseball and basketball. I mean, we really have. But if you're coming in to watch that series, sure, is there an off night maybe and they just give Shohei a day? It happens. I mean, over the course of 162, it's going to happen. But if you're a Dodger fan coming into Chicago, going to Wrigley, you're going to see Shohei. And that is the star of stars. And that's why you pay the money that you do. If you're an NBA fan, and I can't stress this part enough, I, as a longtime NBA fan who's lucky enough to have made my living covering these games, I wouldn't pay to go to a regular season game unless it was about 30 minutes before it started. Because I want to know for sure that the stars are playing that night. And I feel awful for any family that builds its vacation or it's one game, or they spend all this time following their player, whether it's Steph or somebody else, and they go to a game and that player is not playing. And as far as selling the league in the game itself, I think it is a huge issue. But I think you're spot on, because you're looking at how can the NBA improve? Well, you need their stars to be out there as much as they possibly can when they're not hurt. And you're just shooting yourself in the foot as a league by trying to force feed these games if your stars aren't able to be out there and to perform. And that is not something, as baseball has continued to grow a little bit more in these last few years, that baseball has an issue with, because way more often than not, if you go to a game, your favorite baseball players are playing. You do not know in the regular season if that's the case in the NBA.
Nick, a couple of things in the schedule. One thing that we should discuss, is the Christmas Day games. I mean, they're already been put out there for everyone. Spurs, Knicks at 11 a.m. Central Time, followed by the Heat and Celtics. 76ers and Lakers is going to be really good. Oklahoma City Thunder and Timberwolves, that's where you travel to someone else's house for food, listen on the radio, and then you settle in and eat someone else's food and dessert. Nuggets, Warriors. That's the way I look at it. Because usually that Mountain Time game, or that game like there with the Thunder Timberwolves, all right, I'll talk to you. Thanks so much for having us. And then you just go to someone else's house, and now you plop on the couch for Golden State, Denver. But the other thing too that I want to point out to you is the opening night, 3 games. I think that from the NBA standpoint, they go, okay, we're against the NFL on Christmas. Okay, we got to win one day. Let's win opening day. Let's have 3 games. Maybe someone will take off that first game, the Detroit game against Boston, and then people will settle in for the other 2. But I think they just looked at it and said, we have to win a night. So it's going to be opening night with not 2 games, but 3 games, one in the afternoon, which is very unconventional for them.
Hoodie, I loved it because, again, as I have seen the progression of the league, at least in my time, which is about 20 years now covering the NBA, I see a league that is trying to find its footing night to night that it didn't have to worry about in years past. So I saw the same thing you did, and I went, oh, good for the NBA. They are trying. That's why I give them all the credit in the world, because they've known for years the regular season product is struggling, and they tried to do something about it. They tried the NBA Cup, which I still don't believe anybody outside of the league or people who cover the league are that into, but they knew they had a problem, and they were trying to generate interest. So if you're the NBA and you're Adam Silver, put a game at 3 o'clock, because the other thing you have to remember, and that I'm kind of training my brain to remember now, is it's 3 o'clock Eastern, 2 Central for us here. It's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in Europe, and you're getting a ton of viewers worldwide that are going to have a chance to watch a game that they would have probably not been able to watch in the middle of the night. So good for the NBA for trying to generate interest in games and in days. I'm all for it. February 15th, I believe, President's Day, they got a bunch of games they're trying to showcase. Hoodie, anything the NBA can do to try and produce some sort of relevancy in the months between October and April, whatever it takes, because it's not there night to night anymore the way it was when you and I were growing up, but they know it. And they're trying to think out of the box, and I respect that part of it for them.
Nick, I want to talk to you about the big story today, and that's regarding the Los Angeles Lakers. So we go from the Buss family to Mark Walter, and a year later, we are talking about Josh Kushner and Bob Iger of all people that are now owners of the Los Angeles Lakers. That's valued at $12.5 billion. I want to use the word valued because, again, who knows how much this deal is, but $12.5 billion. When you first heard this story that was broken by Ramona Shelburne, what was your initial reaction?
Shock. Because if you're unloading the Lakers, that seems wild on its own. Hoodie, to do it 9 months after that deal finally became official. There's a lot more underneath the surface that I don't think anybody fully understands right now. And to just shuffle the Lakers like they're another property, like you're flipping a house. That was one of the stranger deals and the most surprising I can ever remember in sports. So clearly there's a lot more that meets the eye here. I think that the Lakers, if they were 10 billion, a year or two ago, now they're 12.5 billion. Who knows what they're going to be in 5 or 10 more years with the way these valuations keep going up. But for such a name brand, iconic team to be flipped in that manner, that was a shock.
I was very surprised as well, but it brings me to another question about the league. Like all the rumor and innuendo and the movement, the freedom of movement from players going from place to place, the offseason is as wild as the playoffs or as wild as the regular season. So I think it's funny about this league, right? And you've seen it for years, Nick. It's the free agent fan. It is the offseason, I want to go someplace else fan. It's the playoff fan. Sometimes you get the regular season fan or someone who's completely bought in. But I don't think that we've had so much controversy in the league like we've had so far. Everything that's happening with Kawhi Leonard and that scandal and what's happening now where Mark Walter, and we're trying to figure out, like, where did he get the money to be able to be an owner to start with? I remember, and you remember a time as well, where Major League Baseball did not want Mark Cuban as an owner. It's just like, no, we don't want that Maverick, literally. We don't want that guy around baseball. Too young, too much of a wild card. Sorry, you can't be in it. I just wonder if you feel like the league is doing a good enough job, doing their due diligence to really vet people that are trying to buy into the league. I'm talking about the Mavericks. I'm talking about the Lakers with Mark Walter. Is the league really doing a good enough job these days of making sure that everything's on the up and up as far as ownership?
Well, I throw another name into the conversation as well. That's Tom Dundon in Portland.
Yes.
Because there are so many different layers to, does he really have the money? Why is he cutting so many costs so early in his ownership? The answer to your question to me is it certainly doesn't feel like it, because all of the things that might have gone on behind the curtain are now bubbling up to the surface. And when you have this many questions about all these different ownership dealings, you wonder what the hell's going on in these boardrooms when these conversations are happening. To your point, the last thing any league wants, and certainly Adam Silver and the NBA are right there, you don't want to lose the public trust. And I mean that if you have a team and a fan base that has been as loyal as Portland's has been for years and years, and you have an owner come in and just chop costs and not making a commitment to that area, those are just not headlines that any professional sports league wants to deal with. You throw that on top of what's going on with the Lakers and the enormity of that fan base and how worldwide it is and how many people care. You just have one owner flip it to another group in 2 or 3 days over a weekend. I mean, what is happening? So I think the league has some serious questions. To the point about Kawhi, I can't remember a time when something lingered this long that had so much interest behind it, and it's still not done, and we're going into a new year. There are things going on in the league that it could do a better job of enforcing on its own. And when they linger the way that they have, it hurts the product as a whole.
I feel like there's a lack of due diligence that David Stern would have. He would make sure that things are on the up and up. I mean, he stopped trades before for the good of the league, right? With Chris Paul, as you recall. Like, I don't know, there's a problem. And Dundon, I'm glad you brought him up with Portland. So you're telling me the league vetted Tom Dundon and went through the paperwork and looked at his net value. Was like, yeah, that's good enough. And then on the next breath, he's like, you know what? If you don't get out by 12 o'clock at the hotel, the player has to pay for it.
Like that in the lobby.
What do you mean? It's a night game. What do you mean you got to be out by? What do you mean? You got to be out by 12 o'clock.
Wild.
So, and to the point, in the rumor and innuendo is like, yeah, I'll just move this out of Portland and put it in Raleigh. Like Charlotte would be good for that. I'm sure Charlotte would be all thumbs up for a team in Raleigh, right? And so, in Portland, the tradition. Listen, I know it's the one championship, but that fan base, and you've covered games there, they love the Trailblazers. To get out of their homes to see Portland, even when to do the good and the bad. So, I mean, that's why I asked the question that I did, because I feel like the league and Silver and the league are slipping when it comes to putting real owners in that have the best interest of the community and their team that they own.
I agree. And I think that it's something that the league is going to have to continue to work through, because if you continue to piss off your fan base in these different markets, that comes at a cost down the line. And if you lose that Portland base that has been there for so many years, and there are questions about how the Clippers do their business with Ballmer and the Kawhi stuff, and why in the world have the Lakers been sold this quickly? When these stories start popping up, it's not a good look. And I think it speaks to the point that you were making about the summer. The headlines and the interest that the league is generating now, it is so focused on the summer. And certainly the playoffs were a lot of fun, and the Knicks doing their thing and winning again, that was big for ratings. And for excitement, and Wemby being the new face, good for the league. The league needs stuff to talk about in a positive manner from October to April. What is going to do that night to night? And that's where I get really concerned, on top of the issues that you brought up.
I got a positive story for you. How about the 76ers? How about them? Nick, do you believe that these five, the 76ers, have enough to win a title?
I do not, because I don't believe that Joel Embiid can stay healthy, Hoodie. That's the part about the LeBron conversation that is pretty shocking to me, because LeBron clearly wants to win one more ring before he exits stage right and retires. And it makes a lot of sense on paper. But what is it that he was told, or that he saw, or that he talked to Embiid about? Whatever it is, what leads him to believe that Embiid, through the course of the postseason, is going to be able to stay healthy night to night? Because if you said, hey, I just need this team to win 50 some odd games and get in the playoffs, and then, okay, who knows? Sure. Like, look at the talent that's on the screen. That is a really good team. If you want to win a title, you have to have Joel Embiid. And I just don't see how, given what we've seen in these last few years, he's going to be able to stay out there night to night to help this group.
Okay, so let me just have another volley, sir, at the 76ers.
Absolutely.
Okay, so VJ Etchcom and Tyrese Maxey and Jaylen Brown and LeBron James and Joel Embiid. Can I just tell you, from my standpoint, the most interesting story to me is Jaylen Brown and Joel Embiid. The on one side, it's Joel Embiid, who will not be able to play a full complement of games, because you know that. And then there's Jaylen Brown. So you were the second option in Boston. How about being the third or fourth? Can you handle that? Like, that's a big question. So here's what I will tell you. I'll say this. If you're Nick Nurse, you play it smart. I mean, LeBron can't play every night, and he won't be playing every night. And so, and neither will Joel Embiid. Those two in particular need to be healthy in April into May. If those guys are upright, you have a great shot. But to me, the most intriguing person on the screen is number 7. How does he handle? And he's a great kid. I've met Jaylen Brown. I think he might have changed over the years, kind of like when you saw Jimmy change over the years. Hoodie, I think Jimmy has changed. But I'm telling you, Nick, Jaylen Brown as the third or fourth option will be very interesting to see.
I'm with you, and I would also add this. It was so obvious in his public comments that Jaylen Brown, he was saying, this was my favorite year of my career with no Tatum. And everybody went, whoa, okay. So it seemed so clear that he wanted to go to a place where he was the guy. And you have gone from maybe you're the guy night to night for Philly to you're now on a team and you're behind LeBron. And I'm not saying it's LeBron's team, but the star wattage that comes with playing with one of the all-time greats, that is huge. So how he responds to fitting into not just a new team, but a team where he is very clearly not the number one option. And to your point, 3 or 4 probably on a normal night. That's one of the most fascinating storylines there is. What I would tell you is, for as good as Jaylen Brown played last year, and he's a finals MVP, and he's earned a hell of a lot of respect, there are still plenty of people in the league that are like, very good player, but a guy that you're going to build around for that kind of deal that he's in now and who's going to make it better every single day, that's where there are doubts. So he is one of the most interesting characters of this season coming up. And if he fits in and everything goes smoothly and he plays the way we know he can play, then the Sixers are going to be damn good. But if that boat rocks at all early on and there's all that speculation about, all right, well, this isn't going the way we all thought, then it could sink pretty early if you're Philly trying to get everybody new on the same page.
Come on, Nick. LeBron at the 5.
I'm sure he loves that idea right now. Ask me how he loves that idea in March and April after one more 82-game run.
I'm telling you, I'm not – look, if you ask me Philly or the field, I'm giving you the field. However, but you can speak to this better than anybody because you're right there immersed in it with the big three in Miami as the Bulls try to beat the big three with Bosh and Wade and LeBron James. So what are your memories of those years? Because there was a lot of my turn offense. It's not your turn, it's my turn offense. And I was back and forth. And of course, even though it did not look aesthetically pleasing, they still got to the finals that first year, right? And lost to the Mavericks. So what is that? What's that dynamic when you have one basketball, but more than 2 or 3 athletes that can help you win at the same time?
Hoodie, I think the biggest thing I would tell you is that it takes time for that group when you have that much talent to find their own rhythm. And that's why I think the conversation about Philly is the most interesting thing going this year in the NBA. To me, they're the most interesting team. They have the most interesting storylines, and they sure as hell have a lot of talent. But where I am hesitant on top of, if you take out Embiid's health, which is a huge question mark that nobody knows the answer to right now, the next part is, well, how does it all work next year? And I know LeBron signed for 2 years, and the idea is, all right, well, if it doesn't happen next year, there's still that one more year, and they can add and change and tweak some pieces. But when you have that much talent, it takes a while for them to figure out how to play together. And I think Philly's going to go through those growing pains. I think the first couple months of the season are important to them because they have to be out there and they have to play together and figure it out. But to what you're saying, if you're Philly, you want the risk and you'll take it because that team that nobody was quite sure what to make of them after getting absolutely drilled by the Knicks a few months ago, now all of a sudden they're in the conversation as one of the teams that may be there in the end. So I like the moves. I think they make plenty of sense. Again, though, I just don't believe in Embiid being able to stay healthy. And I think everything else is secondary to that. Because if he does, they're going to be there. And if he doesn't, forget it.
But you were there. What I'm saying is that you were there to see that big three against Tom Thibodeau's Bulls. You covered those teams, did you not? You do recall that. That was you. You were there, right in the middle of it.
And the key with that team, though, and it gets to the heart of what I think you're getting at is that team, when you have that much talent, they have a whole lot of different ways to beat you at the end of games.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I never felt, and this goes back for you and I 16, 17 years now, but I never felt those Bulls teams could ever get over that hump was because if you shut down Derrick Rose when Derrick was healthy, there were only so many other options for the Bulls to go generate offense from. The Heat didn't have that problem. You could go to LeBron, you could go to Wade, who was still in his prime, you could go to Bosh at times when you needed a different boost down low. And so to the point in the comparison about Philly, well, I don't think Philly is where that Miami team was years ago. There are going to be nights when LeBron doesn't have it going and, he's going to be 42 years old. Of course not. But you have Jaylen Brown and you have Edgecombe and you have Maxey and you have guys who are growing into their own. Where I hesitate, and Kevin Durant brought this up a couple weeks ago during one of his press conferences, in comparing those two teams is, Hoodie, when the Heat came into being, the Heatles, the big three, those guys were all Hall of Famers. Boom, boom, boom. They could have retired right then and there, and they were all going to be there. And, I hesitate now because everybody goes to the Basketball Hall of Fame. It just doesn't matter. If you're close, you're going. So, maybe Jaylen Brown's already going to the Hall of Fame. Who knows? But what I would say is LeBron's the only surefire guy. I think there would be questions about Embiid. He hadn't been able to stay healthy. He won that MVP award, but what else has he really done to get to that level? But I just feel a lot different about Miami because you knew what you had in all those guys. And I think with Philly, you know what you have in LeBron still sometimes when you need him. Jaylen Brown has proven it on the biggest stage, and he's going to get plenty of chances. If you're believing in Philly this year, though, you're believing that Maxey and Edgecombe can continue to elevate their own games and become players that we talk about more that are getting to that level within their careers.
Nick, where you are in the Bay Area, I need to ask a multi-pronged question to you regarding the Golden State Warriors. First, I'd like to know what is going on with Steph Curry's contract, and Draymond Green. What's happening there? And also, I want to talk to you about Bob Myers. Sometimes when you're an executive, you got to leave a year early or a couple of years early. You can see the forest for the trees, kind of like Theo and the Cubs. I'm just, you know what? Might be time to leave. And you see where Bob Myers did, and now Dunleavy's in the spot right now. I want to ask you, what's the state of the Warriors, especially with their stars, with Steph and Draymond? What does that look like for the near future?
In the near future, Hoodie, the Warriors can sign Steph to an extension starting on August 29th. So the question is, does Steph want to do the extension? Because if you're the Warriors, you want to do that extension tomorrow. For whatever Steph's flaws are at this stage of his career, and mostly it's just health, because that knee injury, the runner's knee that put him out for such a chunk of last year, I don't think that's really going to go anywhere. You can rehab it and you can try and protect it, but that's something he's going to have to deal with the rest of his career. I think that there's a solid chance that he does the extension. The Warriors want it to happen because, Hoodie, let's get real. The basketball is a business, and he still fills up the building every night, no matter where he goes. But if he doesn't do that deal, that opens up a whole lot more questions going into not just the regular season and whatever happens this year, but next summer. So I think the next month or so and change for Steph, it's intriguing because it's his decision to make. As for Draymond, the Warriors did that one-year deal out of loyalty for him at like $27 million. There's no way he's getting close to that on the open market next year. I'm not sure what the number would be or where he would be, but all he has ever said is he wants to stay in the Bay and he wants to be a Warrior for life. All right. So the question then becomes, how much less is he willing to take in the future? And only he knows the answer to that. I throw Jimmy in there just because of obviously his ties to Chicago, but he's a part of whatever the Warriors decide because he's going to return at some point in this next year. But he's on a max deal, and he's not going to get anywhere close to $58 million again. So how much less is he willing to take if he really wants to stay, as he said? So as far as players go, Steph is going to make his decision. And the other two guys, they've said they want to stay, but if they do want to stay, they're going to have to take a lot less money. How much does that and what does that look like? As far as Bob Myers, I think he knew that he was just kind of burned out. And I think the Theo comparison is a very good one because it always felt like Theo is like, all right, these are not my decisions to make because I know that my time has come and gone here. Now, Bob going to Philly and not just getting Jaylen Brown, but then adding LeBron, it has made a lot of people out here in the Bay jealous. I'd say that's what happened. But what I would also say in that same breath is Bob Myers was integral in getting this Warriors team to where they're at. But if you're really looking for reasons why the Warriors aren't the Warriors anymore with this group, Bob was at the heart of the Wiseman pick, and he certainly was right in the middle of the Kuminga pick. And those two for this organization were major whiffs. They just whiffed. And it happens. You and I have watched it forever, and that's part of pro sports. But, you know, everybody's sitting there going, oh, Bob, like if they just have Bob Myers back and it wasn't Dunleavy, then, oh, they would get all this stuff done. That's where I'm like, let's pump the brakes here because if you're a Warriors fan and you're really upset and pissed off about what's going on, the moves that you're most pissed off about are the missing of those two prospects in that time. Because when you miss on that type of high pick, it has ramifications for years. Those guys were supposed to be the bridge between the end of the Steph prime and whatever was coming next. And there is no bridge right now. They're kind of stuck. So there is a lot of frustration around this team in this area. It's not going anywhere. I think the Warriors are going to try to make a move maybe at the deadline, Hoodie, but they tried to make several moves, and they just didn't have enough. And specifically, it was Giannis. I mean, Giannis was the guy they kind of longed for years. It didn't happen, and it didn't happen in large part because Wiseman played 2 years and was gone and never really helped. And Kuminga, we know about the soap opera of last summer, but he just never turned into the player that they wanted him to be.
It's important for Golden State to be relevant. Now, they're not winning another championship. That's out. They're done. Teams are younger, especially in the West, so that's done. But, boy, they need to stay relevant because if they're not, and it's just the 49ers and the Sharks, San Francisco might as well be called Oakland because that won't work in that area. You need to be vital and exciting, and Steph's the only thing holding that up right now. That's a tough spot.
I would add this, especially as, I mean, you taught me so much during our time together, but it is a business. What happens out here, especially in the Bay, Hoodie, the ticket prices are off the charts.
It's crazy.
They're off the charts.
Yeah.
So if you are selling your product at this high of a level and your product is not worthy of that high of a level, you're going to have some really angry people. And, you know, the team you didn't mention there, but I think there's a lot of anger towards is the Giants. That's part of a deeper Bay Area conversation we don't need to get into right now. But
yes,
if you've got high ticket prices and luxury boxes and all this stuff, and your product, at least in the Warriors case, is mediocre, and it doesn't really have that much hope to be that much better than where it was. Although I would tell you, Hoodie, if Steph can play 60 games instead of 40 games and they stay relatively healthy, I think they will be better than last year, but they were 37 and 45 last year. So what's really better, like 42 and 40? It's all in the margins. They're just not to the point we're both making. They're not getting back to that championship level again. And when you have been spoiled by Steph Curry for almost 20 years, that is a hard realization to wrap your head around.
Giants. Something about wearing that heavy starter coat in July at Oracle. Didn't appeal to me.
The coldest winter I ever spent was summer in San Francisco. Mark Twain, baby.
I can't. I was gonna say I can't wait to
It
read
is.
the book.
When you go to those games at night, because I'm lucky enough, I can head down to Oracle Park, the baseball field. It's cold. It is legitimately. You don't want to walk at 9 or 10 in shorts and a t-shirt because you're gonna freeze your ass off.
That's insane to me. I don't understand. And lastly, I appreciate your time as always, my friend. Russell Westbrook retires. So Russ to you was blank.
He was a guy who left his mark on the game in the way in which he played. And Hoodie, I think anybody who is watching us or listening to us or anybody who goes to their job day to day, that's what you want. You want to be remembered. You want somebody to be like, I liked listening to your conversation. Or I liked, in an athlete's case, watching you play. Russell Westbrook may not be the most popular guy that there ever was, and certainly there are fans that are going to say, oh, it was just the stat stuff. Or Russ did things his way. He played hard as hell all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And Hoodie, what I always appreciated about him was he was himself in a world in which a sports world where guys, they're very cautious to reveal anything publicly, and they don't want to say the wrong thing. That dude, he just said what was on his mind, and I think his best days certainly were in OKC. But I always appreciated watching his style of play because, again, when I came up in this business, that was at the start of Derrick Rose's career, and the guy he was compared to the most in that stretch when he was healthy and up and running was Russ. And those two worked out together in their early years. They played just a different style than we had seen. And I mean, I know he's going to the Hall of Fame. He deserves it. He's going to have a statue outside in Oklahoma. He deserves that too.
Mm-hmm.
I respected the way he handled his loyalty towards that team in the wake of when KD left. And I think he really left his mark on the game, and that's all you can ask.
His agent said, well, you got Sacramento or Washington. He goes, I'll retire.
I'm out.
No thanks.
That is quite the choice there.
I'm not going through this vortex of losing again, and then this media going after me because I don't blame him. It's peace of mind for him. Peace of mind for Russell Westbrook.
Out of all the guys that we have covered and talked about through the years, Russ always struck me as a guy who had a hell of a lot more going on outside of just his playing career.
Yeah.
By all accounts, he's a great family man. He seems just like a genuinely good dude. There's the public persona you mentioned, like he's going after people sometimes at the podium. I don't think that was actually him, though. When you start talking to people that were around him for years in Oklahoma, they swear by the guy. And they always said that he had his priorities in order. I mean, I'm actually I respect it even more because when you do the jobs that we do, and I travel all these years, I always wondered how you balance all that stuff. And I would say on a personal level, I always thought that Westbrook found that balance early on, and he carried it with him. He was always into fashion, like he had hobbies. I was like, man, good for this guy. He figured out what he liked, and he went with it. But I think I remember I would close it this way, and it's funny. There's a Chicago tie in it now because that was his old coach, but there was an old Billy Donovan coach or quote. And Billy was a coach, obviously, in OKC before he went to the Bulls. But he said, I want to say it was in a New Yorker story, but it was a Donovan quote. And he said, Westbrook is going to have peace of mind at the end of his career because he gave everything he could to the game. And when you do that, and you do that in any line of work, any career, I think there's something really to be said for that. So more power to Russ and whatever he gets into next.
We're brought to you by the fine folks over at Advantage Dealer Group. make sure you get your Advantage at the Advantage Dealer Group in Calumet City. Get yourself a Toyota. And Nick, always remember what Norman Powell said: the Chicago Bulls have a chance to be really good or really bad.
Hoodie, it's going to be a long year. Let's just I don't know where Norman was going on that one, but I saw it got memed to the to the highest powers the other day. But it is going to be a rough couple years. But if you trust in Bryson Graham and the drafting strategy, here we go. At least it's not AK and Eversley anymore.
Nope, just AK in voice tone as the head coach. That is going to disturb the shit out of Bulls fans at some point in about early December.
Yep.
So I don't know if you just took a peek at the Bulls schedule there. It's a gauntlet in the Atlantic that they got to face like 3 in a row. If you take a look, it's ugly. It's bad. It's Boston, Knicks, and I think Philly all in a row somewhere in there.
Hoodie, it's one of the ultimate truisms in NBA scheduling. Bad teams get bad schedules.
Yeah.
And when you're a bad team, nobody's looking out for you. They're not trying to protect you for the national TV dates. You get what you get in those 82. And this is another reason why it's time for the Bulls to turn it around.
Love you, my friend.
I love you too, my man. It's always good to be with you.
Nick Friedell with us talking about the NBA right here on ESPN Chicago. If you're listening on the podcast, and of course, Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood, we're on YouTube and also on our own podcast. The link is in the bio for Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. All right. Don't forget to continue to subscribe and check out what we have on Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. And we'll talk to you next time on YouTube and podcast. So long, everybody.